Hi everyone, my name is Dan Probert and I'm the CTO of Aphanis, and I am giving a lightning session on what is an AI prompt and can I automate it? So let's jump right in. We have 12 minutes to run through all this. So very quickly, we'll be looking at what an AI prompt is, how we use them in practice, some essential knowledge on how you might create them, and then we'll have a very quick look at how we might automate that prompt creation with a sample on how we might do that in Logic Apps. So jumping right in, what is an AI prompt? So an AI prompt is how we interact with an AI model. So something like ChatGPT or Copilot. So it's the initial interaction we have. If you think about using something like Google search or Bing or something like that, you'll go to the text box and type in a question. A prompt is very similar. The thing is that the prompt is instructing the AI model to generate the response or complete a task. So that prompt is going to help shape what the AI is going to do for you. And what it's going to give you back is, are you wanting text? Are you wanting an image or a video or something like that? But the cool thing about AI prompts is that they are natural language. We talk to the AI as if we were talking to another human. And that's been one of the goals of computer scientists for a very long time. And that enables kind of a seamless interaction between you and the AI. You ask a question, it comes back with a question. You ask another question, you get some answers, that sort of thing. So what are the types of prompts that we might use? So a standard one might be instruction. I want you to do something for me. So plot the best route to get to Redmond and Washington from LAX using a horse-drawn carriage, please. It's always nice to be polite. Then we have question prompts. So a question prompt might be, if I break down on a freeway and my horse is feeling nervous, should I call the AAA or the police? And then we have example-based prompts. So that's where we're giving it some context or some information, and we want it to do something with that information. So in this case here, we could say, please refer to a book. So using the book, Horse-Drawn Journeys of the World, give me some examples of places I shouldn't take my horse. So it'll go away and find that book if it knows about it and use that as part of the information it's got in giving us an answer. So how do we use these prompts in practice? So most of you will probably first come across AI in chatbots. You know, you go to a website and up pops a little thing that says, hi, my name's Eve. How can I help you today? And we can interact with that chatbot in a more natural way, in a human-like conversation. So that's enhancing the user experience. We can also use AI and prompts to automate tasks. So I can say, please generate me a list of 10,000 random numbers, and then give me the Python code to generate the same thing. So that is taking something that I would have to do manually and making it more efficient. So it's automating that task. And then we've got user support and engagement, which is where we come into sort of the integration tools and stuff we might use. So we can build solutions that will engage with our users and provide support without a human having to be involved. That can make things more pleasant for the user because they can get things done in a more efficient way. Another cool thing we can use prompts and AI for is catalyst for creativity. So I can say, give me some ideas on an essay I want to write, or give me some ideas on a picture I could draw, or give me some ideas on an app I could write, or suggestions on a language I could use for doing it. So we can use those prompts to leverage their creativity there. We can use it for generating original content, in that we're asking it to give us suggestions on content we could create. Some people might take this a bit far and completely generate the content using AI. And then you can ask the question, is that original content if it's generated by the AI or not, based on what it knows? Meh. We'll leave that for a future time to discuss. Some essential knowledge for using prompts. So one of the big things is clarity. So if you're clear in what you're asking, you'll get a much better response coming back out, which means you need to know, what are you after? What's the answer? How would you know if the answer is correct? So have that clear in your head before you start, creating your prompt. Another thing here is specificity. So how specific is your prompt? You want to reduce any ambiguity, and you want to help the AI give you a clear, understandable answer. The last thing here is context. Context is king. The more context you give the AI, the better response you're going to get. So, for example, if you and your child are leaving the house and you say to your young child, "Did you remember your teeth?" The child will probably know that you're talking about brushing teeth because you always brush your teeth before you leave the house and you've just left the house. If you go to, say, an AI-driven robot and you're leaving the house and say, "Did you remember your teeth?" you might get a very confused look. The AI doesn't have that context that your child did. So context is king. And I sometimes like to think that imagine the AI as an actor on stage and you're giving it a backstory. You know, you're 30 years old, you've had 2 failed marriages, your mother just died, and that is why you're angry. Now go ahead and give me the answer. So a similar thing we can do with AI, we can say you're an integration developer of 15 years experience and you work mainly in Microsoft technology. Please give an answer based on that. That type of context is really, really important. But there are limitations on what we can do with prompts. So all models have biases. They have certain things that they believe to be true that others don't, and they can misunderstand your request and give you answers that are not factually correct, and they won't know. There's a common thing with AI at the moment about hallucination. AI models are trained to give you an answer no matter what. So they will give you an answer that's wrong rather than give you no answer. That's known as hallucination. They can also emit data. So you've got to manage user expectations. Have your users understand that AI might give something that's incorrect, and they should, at least validate what you've got. This is really important if you're using AI to generate code. If you ask it to write code and you don't understand that code, how do you know if the code is correct? Even if it executes correctly, it might have stuff in there that will break later. So it's important to understand these limitations. And by improving your prompt design, there's a whole thing around, prompt engineers becoming a new job in the future. People that know how to design prompts that look at the limitations of AI and the different models, and you design around that. You create a prompt that bypasses that and gives you the most accurate response you could get. So one of the things we can do is we can look at iterative refinement. You give it a prompt, you get back an answer. Based on that answer, you refine your prompt, you go backwards and forwards. So you're refining it through iterations. Another thing that we talked about earlier is avoid vagueness. Try and use as clear and specific language as you can to reduce ambiguity. And that leads to one common mistake, especially with people learning to use AI, is you give it a broad prompt or you don't give it enough context. So the response you get back is not what you're expecting. So you're going to try and make sure that your prompts are as accurate as possible and give as much context as they can. How could we automate a prompt? So first of all, why would we automate a prompt? Well, we can increase efficiency. So we can streamline our workflows by generating those prompts without having to have a human write them. It reduces errors because now the prompt's automated, so we don't get the problem of humans introducing errors. And now you can start scaling because I can generate 10,000 prompts in a second and send those out to different engines to be executed. So I can scale an AI application by using prompts internally to execute tasks. And there's a number of ways we might automate the creation of a prompt. The easiest way is you ask AI to write a prompt for you. So I could ask ChatGPT to give me a Copilot prompt. I could use a scripting language to generate a prompt. I could also use a workflow tool such as Logic Apps to write a prompt for me. Another common way is using templates. So imagine a Word document that says, give me a story about A, where they live in B and their job is C. So you're asking the user to fill in little bits of information there. And then we lead towards dynamic inputs. So you can generate prompts based on a back and forth with the user. So we fill in more and more information to generate a really good prompt to influence and customize whatever it is they want to automate. So here's a very quick example of how we might use Logic Apps to automate generation of a prompt. So if you've been working with Azure recently, you'll know about their OpenAI support. So if we set up Azure OpenAI, we can use a deployed model as a chat engine, and then we can interact with that from Logic Apps. So there's a specific action called get chat completions that we can use to execute a chat or a prompt, and we can do that against our deployed model. So in this example here, I've set up a very simple workflow. It receives an HTTP request. It then uses this chat completion action against the engine I've set up already to execute the prompt. and gives me back a response. And so if I give it a prompt that says, please write me a prompt, in this case here, create an AI prompt for Copilot that queries the user for a company name and then generates a detailed integration architecture, then here I get a prompt coming back. So I can copy and paste this prompt here into Copilot and it will execute it. So that's an interesting way of auto-generating a prompt using logic apps. And then you could then get logic apps to execute this prompt as well if you wanted, and you can iterate through that. So this was a very quick run through over what is an AI prompt and how important they are. They're what we use to interact with AI. Good prompts can empower users. So if you understand how to write really good prompts, it's very powerful. And it's one of the early things you should do. Play around with AI engines, learn to write good prompts. And then we can look at how we automate those prompts as well to, reduce errors and write applications that generate those prompts and execute them. Right, if you want some further reading, Scott Hanselman and Mark Russinovich have a series of really, really good videos on using AI. And then we've got Kent Ware's videos on logic apps and AI. And there's some information on this link here about creating chat completions using that prompt template. That's me. My name's Dan Probert. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.